The festive air at Mar-a-Lago, usually filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses, was pierced by a sudden tension as President Trump stepped up to the podium. The occasion was meant to be a celebration, a Thanksgiving gathering with all the trimmings. But the mood quickly shifted as the president faced a room full of reporters, their questions sharpened by the day's grim news. The atmosphere was heavy, overshadowed by a deadly shooting in Washington, D.C. The press, already on edge, was prepared to challenge the president on his administration's handling of immigration policy, especially in light of the tragedy. The sense of urgency was palpable, as journalists sought answers about the government's vetting process for refugees and asylum seekers. CBS News correspondent Nancy Cordes took the lead, directly confronting Trump about his repeated claims that Afghan evacuees were poorly vetted. She pointed out a critical detail. The D.C. shooting suspect, Rahmanullah Lakanwal, had actually received asylum approval during Trump's own administration. This fact challenged the president's narrative and put him on the defensive. The room fell silent, the anticipation thick enough to cut with a knife. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised, waiting for Trump's reaction. The tension was almost tangible, as everyone sensed a pivotal moment was about to unfold. President Trump's response was swift and personal. "Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person?" He shot back, repeating the insult and deflecting from the substance of the question. His tone was sharp, and the exchange quickly escalated, drawing gasps and murmurs from the press corps. Doubling down, Trump insisted the suspect was unvetted, unchecked, and shifted blame to the 2021 Afghan evacuation, calling it a disgraceful mess. He painted a picture of chaos and danger, using the incident to reinforce his long-standing criticisms of immigration and refugee policies. The heated exchange dominated headlines across the country. Trump's refusal to accept responsibility and his efforts to redirect blame became the focal point of news coverage. The confrontation not only highlighted the deep divisions over immigration policy, but also underscored the president's combative relationship with the press. In the end, the Thanksgiving event itself faded into the background. The confrontation set the tone for the administration's response, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed it, and marking yet another contentious chapter in the ongoing debate over America's immigration policies. The night before, violence erupted near the White House. 2 National Guard members were shot in a brazen attack. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf were critically injured, sending shockwaves through the city and the nation. The attack, blocks from the White House, triggered a massive investigation and an outpouring of public concern. The next morning, President Trump announced Specialist Beckstrom's death during a call with military members. "She was savagely attacked. She's dead." The incident shifted from assault to homicide, intensifying the search for answers. Wolf survived, but Beckstrom's death made the shooting a national crisis. Authorities raced to find the perpetrator. Knowing the attack's location made it a matter of national security. The country demanded justice and reassurance. Investigators quickly identified Rahmanullah Lakanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan national, as the primary suspect in the case that would soon grip the nation's attention. His name, once unknown to most Americans, was suddenly at the center of a growing controversy. Lakanwal had entered the United States in 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome, a program designed to help Afghans who had assisted U.S. forces and intelligence agencies during the long war in Afghanistan. He had worked closely with both the U.S. military and the CIA, serving as an interpreter and local guide, roles that required a high level of trust and cooperation. His background was complex, once a trusted ally, now accused of a heinous crime. The transformation from valued partner to alleged perpetrator left many stunned and raised difficult questions about loyalty, risk, and the unpredictable paths of those displaced by war. After arriving in the U.S., Lakanwal was granted humanitarian parole, a temporary status for those facing urgent danger. In December 2024, he formally applied for asylum, seeking permanent protection and a new start in America. His asylum was approved in April 2025 during the Trump administration, marking a significant milestone in his journey. For Lakanwal, it was a moment of relief and hope, but for others, it would soon become a point of heated debate. This timeline became a political flashpoint, as Lochinwall had been vetted multiple times, first for his work with the CIA, then again during his asylum process. Each stage involved background checks, interviews, and security screenings meant to ensure he posed no threat. The case challenged the narrative of unvetted refugees and raised tough questions about the effectiveness of U.S. screening. How could someone so thoroughly checked still be accused of such a serious crime? Both sides seized on the details. Was the system fundamentally broken, or was this a tragic exception in an otherwise secure process? The story quickly became a lightning rod for political arguments about immigration and national security. The debate over vetting and responsibility intensified, with activists, politicians, and everyday citizens weighing in on what should change, if anything, in the nation's approach to refugees. Lochinwall's story became central to the national conversation, symbolizing both the hopes and the fears surrounding America's immigration system. President Trump wasted no time turning the tragic shooting into a rallying cry for his hardline immigration agenda. Almost immediately, he seized the moment to draw a direct connection between the violence and what he described as the dangers of lax border policies. His response was swift, forceful, and unmistakably political, setting the tone for the national conversation that would follow. Trump condemned the 2021 Afghan evacuation as a catastrophic security failure, blaming President Biden's administration for what he called a reckless decision to allow dangerous individuals into the country. He painted a vivid picture of chaos at the airports, warning that the consequences of these policies were now being felt on American soil. When pressed by reporters about the fact that Lochinwall's asylum had actually been approved under his own administration, Trump quickly deflected. Instead of addressing the question directly, he launched into a sharp attack on the media, accusing them of twisting the facts and shifting the focus back to the initial entry of refugees. With raw emotion, Trump announced Beckstrom's death, his voice heavy with anger and frustration. He made it clear that he saw her loss as a direct result of failed immigration policies, using her story to underscore the stakes of the ongoing debate. At rallies and press events, Trump framed the tragedy as undeniable proof of the urgent need for tougher borders and stricter vetting. He used the moment to energize his base, calling for unity behind his America First vision and warning of further tragedies if action wasn't taken. The administration's message was clear and uncompromising. National security was at risk, and only a hardline approach could truly protect Americans from future harm. Officials doubled down on calls for increased border enforcement and stricter immigration controls. The shooting quickly became a powerful symbol for Trump's America First stance, galvanizing supporters and deepening the political divide. In the aftermath, nuance was lost. The debate over immigration and security became black and white, with little room for compromise or reflection. The White House echoed Trump's rhetoric, blaming Biden-era policies for the tragedy. Spokeswoman Abigail Jackson declared, "This animal would have never been here if not for Joe Biden's dangerous policies," cementing the administration's narrative. The focus was on the suspect's initial entry, sidestepping questions about the Trump administration's own role in approving asylum. Meanwhile, refugee advocates pushed back. Sean Van Diver of the Afghan evac defended the vetting process as among the world's most rigorous, urging Americans not to blame an entire community for one act. He warned against using the tragedy to punish thousands of Afghans who risked their lives for the U.S. advocates called for perspective, reminding the nation of its moral obligations. The country was split between fear and compassion. In the wake of the shooting, the Trump administration acted fast, announcing a total halt on migration from all third-world countries. U.S. citizenship and immigration services froze all Afghan cases, pending a sweeping review. Thousands of Afghans were left in limbo, their futures uncertain. New rules increased scrutiny for applicants from 19 high-risk countries, though the list was secret. Supporters praised the crackdown as necessary. Critics called it overreach. The administration argued these steps would close security gaps exposed by the attack. The policy shift was one of the most dramatic in years, a direct response to the D.C. shooting. The message, America's doors would close until security could be guaranteed. The D.C. shooting reignited America's core debate: security versus welcome. Critics of refugee programs pointed to Lochinwall as proof the system was broken, demanding stricter controls. Trump and his allies argued that Beckstrom's death justified tough new measures, prioritizing safety above all. Opponents warned against condemning all refugees for one crime, stressing the vast majority are peaceful allies. Advocates like Van Diver insisted the vetting process was already stringent and that closing doors betrayed U.S. values. The tragedy forced the nation to confront hard questions: can security and compassion coexist? As new policies took effect, the country remained deeply divided. The path forward would test America's identity, torn between fear and hope.